Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
It was Christmas Eve. Night was falling, and the lamplighters were plying their trade.
Hey, light the lamp, not the rat, light the lamp, not the rat!
My apologies.
Put me out, put me out, put me out, put me out, put me out! Whistle! What? Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello and welcome to the final normal well, if you could call us normal anyway, so that's gone and messed up my intro, but normal Monday movie show of 2015, because we are returning in a couple of days' time with our end of year special where we give out our awards and the best and worst of the year. However, we are here to talk about one specific tiny little film, and so we've got Andrew.
Yeah, I'm here, as usual.
We also need the help of somebody who's got a bit of a Star Wars encyclopedia kind of stuck in his brain. Well, he likes to think that he's got a Star Wars encyclopedia stuck in his brain, but he knows more about Star Wars than us two combined, and that is Mark from Following the Nerd.
Hello, lads. How are yous?
You go first. We're going to have this problem all the way through this part, aren't we?
Yeah, it's always the joyous thing being asked, how are you, and then you just don't know how to reply to it.
You do?
Yeah, awkward.
Oh, well, same old.
Yeah, just a misery guts as per usual. Probably going to, as you just alluded to in the opening little clip bit there, that I might make a few enemies by the end of tonight's show, but there's no surprise there. I wonder why. Maybe it's just because the fact that we are looking at Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and just to give you a slight caveat, we're not going to make it. We're not going to do any spoilers, but just in case something does slip out that people might think that is a spoiler. If you don't want the film spoiled in any way, shape or form, then either fast forward through that section if you listen to it back in a podcast, or just mute it until we're finished with it. Just in case, just to be safe.
Yeah.
If you have seen the film, and there's probably only 2 people in the entire world who hasn't seen the movie, well, China has not seen the film because it's not out there until January the 4th. But if you've not seen the film, then yeah, just mute us or fast forward through it.
Yeah, I mean, we should actually put some kind of notice in the chat. So if anyone is listening live and wants to mute it, then we can go, put it back on now, and then spoil it.
Yeah, and just... well, that's horrible, but that's the kind of thing that I would do, actually. But surprisingly, there are a couple of other films out this week that are not Star Wars related that we are going to look at after Star Wars: The Force Awakens. They are.
Yeah, so of course Star Wars: The Force Awakens will be starting out the show, but there's also released this week was the Peanuts movie. Because we're not here next week, and because we have seen it, well, I've seen it, we're also covering In the Heart of the Sea, which was released on Boxing Day. And then on DVD and Blu Ray later in the show, again covering this week's and next week's releases, we have Hitman Agent 47, we have Nicolas Cage in Outcast, we have a documentary with Precinct 7/5, and then the week after released are Ricky and the Flash, Transporter Refuelled, and Sinister 2.
Yeah, and Mark, you will get used to this because I'm used to it all the time now, but you might have heard Andrew's mic slightly go a bit of bad quality there, and it sounded like he was on a motorway.
Yeah, I thought I was on an episode of American Horror Story for a second.
No, trust me, it does happen, so yeah, you'll have to get used to that, so just in case you think, what's going on? But yeah, sometimes it does either sound like he's trapped inside of a washing machine, he's getting abducted by aliens, or he's outside of a motorway doing a live stream. Ready for us to cross over to it.
This is the first I've heard of this.
Well, now you know about it. On top of stuff we've alluded to that we're reviewing, we're also looking at the Blu-ray and DVD top 10, the UK box office top 10, but surprisingly there is a couple of bits of news out there.
Yep, the only piece of news that I have is about Spaceballs, or rather the potential sequel, Spaceballs: The Search for More Money, as was referenced in the first film. In a recent interview on Adam Carolla's Take a Knee podcast, Mel Brooks was interviewed and stated that a sequel is in the early stages of development, and that he hopes to have most of the crew assembled as they are available Obviously, some of them have passed away since then, but hopes to have the crew and everything assembled to try and start shooting in early 2016. Hello, is this thing on?
That's the best you're going to get from an idea of a Spaceball sequel.
Yeah.
I didn't realise this was a thing. Apparently people want this.
I would be up for this as long as it is as good as the first one. And the first one is, let's admit it, it is one of the better spoofs out there, and the only spoof really that gets Star Wars right.
Yeah, but that's the first one. You look at Scary Movie, and the first one was decent, and then after that, it just wasn't worth watching at all. So
the second one was okay.
The first one was a good spoof on Star Wars. That's a cult classic. It's sort of like pretty much everything that's getting rebooted, remade at the moment. They're based on cult classic IP properties, Ghostbusters, for example, and a lot of people hold them to heart, whereas we don't want another one in the series or a remake of it. Gremlins, for example, as well. There's always been talk that there's going to be a new Gremlins film. Does anybody want a Gremlins 3? No, I don't.
Wait, hold on. The Ghostbusters remake is a spoof. I knew it.
Yeah, that's it. It's finally come out to light that Charles Dance was the one who released that piece of information, because he's going to be in the film as well, and so he turned around and said, "Yep, it's a spoof."
So is that all the sort of the fans that were kind of going, you know what, this might actually be good, all sort of going, no, this is going to be bad now. We're going to start this again.
Yeah, can this be another show? Because I really can't get into the Ghostbusters thing right now.
Yeah, we'll not go down the Ghostbusters.
I guess we'll see when we get the first trailer what kind of the mood of it is. But then again, trailers can be deceiving, as they have been often.
We would have had that by now though, because we had the leaked or the released images and posters during the week. So I was sure that the trailer was coming, but still nothing.
No, yeah, I think he's going to hold it back as much as he possibly can, because he knows that he's made a bit of a crap film, so he doesn't want to scare everybody.
Well, he's promised we'll have it before the end of the year, so he's got a week and a half.
He might release it probably the same time as the Deadpool trailer, the new one, which is getting released on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So that you can just imagine Fake doing that. Like, Deadpool has got his moment in the sun, where probably he's going to get the Deadpool movie that people have been eager to see, a sweary Deadpool. And then all of a sudden Fake goes, you know what, screw you, happy Christmas to me, here's the Ghostbusters trailer.
Okay.
Yeah, news I've got is, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Jeremy Renner will be playing legendary boxer Rocky Marciano in a biopic about his life.
God. How does Jeremy Renner get...
Was wondering, was he a short man?
I don't follow boxing that much.
I don't either, really. No, I actually don't have a problem with Jeremy Renner as an actor, because he has done some good acting job. I mean, there was Kill the Messenger, which was a small film that he was in, which is a drama, and he was really good in it. And it really gave him a chance to show off his acting chops.
Yeah. James Cameron has announced that Terminator 2 Judgment Day will be getting a 3D re-release treatment to celebrate the 25th anniversary.
Even me as a 3D fan, not interested in that. Just not interested at all.
3D should just be eradicated from cinemas now.
I'll tell you this, actually, I picked up Terminator Genesis today because it was a cheaper version. I picked up second hand, and I wasn't bothered that it was only the 2D version. I didn't bother trying to get the 3D version of it. Doesn't need it.
Well, no film actually needs 3D. Has anybody, just out of curiosity, seen Star Wars in 3D?
I've seen it in both.
Does it work in 3D?
It did work in 3D. It didn't need it, but it did work in 3D.
Yeah, it didn't need it.
No, well, because it's the whole thing of like the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 got released in 3D only in the UK and Europe. In America, they didn't bother. They converted it to 3D for the European market and didn't bother for the US one. So in the UK is the only place you'll get the 3D version. On DVD and Blu Ray probably, Blu Ray they'll release probably the 3D version. But it's the fourth film, and 3 films before it weren't in 3D, so why bother doing the fourth one?
Why bother with 3D in general? I know it's a cash cow to release Terminator 2 Judgment Day in 3D, but why not just clean up the film and release it in its form, slightly cleaned up, not in 3D? Just do it that way. You'll get more people wanting to go and see it, because Nobody wants to go and see Terminator 2 in 3D.
Why not do a whole thing and just don't bother that clean up? They don't even need to clean up because they've already cleaned up the first one for the Blu Ray release. So just release a double bill of Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 at the cinema. No 3D, anniversary sort of thing. Do that. People will be happy with that.
Just remastered it in 4K.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple as that. Yeah, I know there's still no full-on 4K movie content out just yet. Blu-rays get released early next year, and you'll need a standard 4K Blu-ray player to do that. But still, just release it in 4K. There are streaming sites like Netflix and Amazon which have 4K films on it. It's a nightmare to actually find them because I've tried. But yeah, just do it that way.
Is this not James Cameron? Because he's the champion for 3D. Is this his way of, because we had the Titanic movie that he did, and then we had Avatar, which were, to be honest, I thought Avatar in 3D was amazing. But is this not his way of now saying, oh look, we can take movies that weren't 3D and make them really good 3D? Is this what he's doing here?
You wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, I have as well. I haven't watched it yet because I need to set up my projector at home because I've moved. But I have, because I have a 3D projector, and I did pick up the 3D Titanic, and I haven't watched it, but I'm just curious to see if he's done that good a job on it that the 3D it does work. But again, Titanic is a film that doesn't need the 3D. I mean, what is it supposed to be?
Sorry, I actually meant, remember the Ghosts of the Abyss? Remember that thing he did?
Yeah. Yeah, that was done in 3D. That was actually because it was like an IMAX special thing, wasn't it? I've got the DVD of that, but that was back when there wasn't really any sort of 3D thing out.
But trust me when I see it, that I think 4K is more of the future, because when you do see something with that higher resolution, it feels like you're actually there. Because when I first got my television, my 4K TV, and I watched one of those sort of like nature documentaries on YouTube in 4K, and you do see the depth and it feels like you're there. I think that's more of the future, because you don't have to worry about stupid glasses or anything like that.
Well, the problem you're going to get is as well with 4K and everything, even just with HD, a lot of things you get in HD, if you watch them and it's a really good picture, it doesn't look right. Your eyes don't adjust to it because it looks too clear. It looks like a painting, and it doesn't look like a moving picture. It doesn't look right at all. So there's also that problem too. If 4K it's kind of a thing of that it's too perfect, that it shows up kind of the imperfections of video as opposed to what the naked eye sees.
4K is better than 3D. Final piece of news I have is Paramount have announced that they are teaming up with Hasbro to start a new universe that will feature G.I. Joe, Micronauts, Visionaries, Mask, and ROM. Screenwriter Akiva Goldsman will lead up the writing room.
I'm not sure about this one. I'm really not. I mean, the whole thing you're going to get now, are G.I. Joe going to be in Transformers, the next movie? Are we going to have The Rock appearing in the next Transformers film? Carrying on his character from the absolutely terrible second G.I. Joe film, because no one from the first one can come back because they killed them all.
Yeah, the only thing I'm excited for here is a Mask movie, because Mask was such a great property when I was a kid, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that. But I don't know, Micronauts and Visionaries, and I don't even know what ROM is. What is that?
Never heard of it myself.
No.
I'm a toy collector and I don't know what ROM is.
I do remember having the Mask toys and those things. I mean, the interesting thing about that is I've heard someone say the interesting thing, and they're right, is that it makes sense. You could kind of generate the whole thing of Mask being, they've got these robots that transform and everything like that, so we can now build vehicles based on that will transform and we can do things with, and that's kind of cool that they can do that.
The conversation I was having with
Was
somebody,
it?
yeah.
And
I can see it leading from the last Transformers movie.
It's a logical step, but the thing is, then, I mean, are you going to have a Mask movie without Transformers in it, or without G.I. Joes popping up and stuff? And it's the whole thing again, I guess, of like the Marvel films where you've got Captain America's in trouble, and so where are the rest of the Avengers? Why doesn't that happen, sort of a thing? You're going to have that with any kind of shared universe thing.
Yeah, like Iron Man 3, all he needed, one Avenger. Any one Avenger. No Iron Man 3.
Right, we'll steamroll through the UK box office top 10 then.
Yeah, starting at number 10 with Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah, and if you've seen any of these, Mark, just chime in a little bit. Victor Frankenstein is a rubbish film. It's really bad. It's sort of like a I was looking forward to it when you've got the kind of cast that is involved in the film itself. Daniel Radcliffe, James McAvoy, match made in heaven there, except they've made a bit of a mess of a movie.
And director of Push, which is one of my favourite indie sort of science fiction films as well. No? Okay. Number 9 is Carol, which I don't think you've seen, have you?
Nope.
No. I finally did see that this week, and I don't honestly get what the big fuss is about this film. It's a good film, but it's not that great. The thing that is great about it is the performances, with Cate Blanchett is really, really good in it, and also I'm terrible with names. I'm forgetting people's names. Rooney Mara, yeah, who I do love as well, but in this she's not that great, to be honest. I think she's actually very, very reserved, and it's odd. I did like the film, but I honestly, all the way through it, and then at the very end I sat there and I was like, everyone's absolutely raving about this, I don't get why.
Okay.
Number 8 is Krampus.
I adored this film. I loved it. Absolutely fantastic Christmas movie. Michael Dougherty did Trick or Treat. He's done for what he did for Halloween with Trick or Treat, with what he's done with Krampus. It is one of those films that I'm going to definitely watch every single year now at Christmas. It goes alongside for me Gremlins and Home Alone as my two main Christmas films I watch each year.
I still haven't seen this yet, and I do want to see it because it does look like, as much as I don't like horror, I like kind of horror comedies, and from what I'm hearing, I would like this.
And what was that little giggle for?
No, because I was just thinking the way you were saying Home Alone and Krampus. But yeah, no, it looks great. I haven't seen it myself, but I do. I was surprised Toni Collette was in this.
Yeah, she's really good. Everybody's really good in the film. But yeah, it is. I know it's a weird having sort of like Home Alone alongside Gremlins, and now something like Krampus going alongside them three. And I wonder if you've seen the Macaulay Culkin grown up version of.
I haven't seen that. No, I'm just imagining. Can you imagine little Kevin McAllister fighting off Krampus breaking into the house at Christmas? That would be a film. That would be interesting to see.
But yeah, definitely. If Krampus is still shown in cinemas close to where people are, please go and see it.
Number 7 is Black Mass.
Yeah, it's an average film. For me, a lot of people were raving about how fantastic this film is, how brilliant Johnny Depp is in the movie, and I just thought it's fine. It's nothing any special. It's not one of those movies which is gonna push Johnny Depp back into the forefront and get him away from his Jack Sparrow kind of characters. That'll not do. This film will not do it, because it's just by the numbers kind of thriller.
Lady in the Van is at number 6.
Yeah, it's a very well made British comedy drama.
Okay, moving on to number 5, Christmas with the Coopers.
I haven't seen it.
We haven't seen this at all. Mark, have you seen this?
No.
Do you want to see it?
Alan Arkin and John Goodman. I mean, that I would pay to see.
Yeah, it definitely looks like one of these films though where everyone's doing it for the check though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 4 is Bridge of Spies.
Yeah, it's a very good film, very good acting film from both Tom Hanks and I forgot his name. So I've got your
Mark
virus there.
Spielberg. Steven Spielberg.
No, Mark Rylance, is it?
Yeah, Mark Rylance. Yeah, it's very well acted from both of them. It sags a little bit in the central section of the film itself, but it's still a very well made movie.
Spectre still doing really strong at number 3.
Mark, what's your thoughts on Spectre?
It was so anticlimactic. I mean, it's a decent movie, but it just feels like everybody's got a collection of the greatest hits of James Bond and fired them onto the screen. Daniel Craig phones it in. Christoph Waltz in the most non-shocking reveal in cinematic history, and it was so by the numbers. I thought, and despite what everybody says, it kind of undoes all the Bond history. Can we talk spoilers now, do you think? Are we far enough away?
Yeah, go on, by all means, yeah.
Because the relationship between Bond and Blofeld is completely bastardized from what it was. So, I don't know. I enjoyed it as an action movie. I didn't particularly enjoy it as a Bond movie.
I agree. I mean, you're very... The whole thing you're saying about Daniel Craig throwing it in, I agree. I mean, I said it as well, that I thought... I don't know necessarily if it's just that he's tired of the role, or the role itself is tired, but it definitely... You feel it in this film.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I was very disappointed with it. I enjoyed it, but I was very let down.
Yeah. Number 2 is The Good Dinosaur.
Yeah, again, try this week not to put it alongside the other Pixar movie released this year, but in hindsight, alongside that, when you have had one of the best films of your studio career, and then you release something like The Good Dinosaur, it's unfortunate for The Good Dinosaur because animation-wise, it's really nice to look at, and it has a few really touching scenes in the film. It's just the story is very, very mainstream, very basic, and it's just the film itself is not as good as it should be.
And we already talked about it tonight. It was released in 3D, even though it didn't really need it. Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 is at number 1.
Yes, and that will definitely be gone from the number 1 spot because of
Star Wars The Force Awakens.
We'll get on to now.
Yeah, so we are going to do our best to obviously not do any spoilers in this, but obviously bear in mind, hopefully nothing will leak out. Not really got anything much of a plot to go over because I don't want to say anything too much, but what I'll do is actually read the opening scroll that appears in the film, which basically just starts off with Luke Skywalker has vanished. In his absence, the sinister First Order has risen from the ashes of the Empire and will not rest until Skywalker, the last Jedi, has been destroyed. That's really off-putting, thank you very much.
Sorry,
yeah.
resist.
With the support of the Republic, General Leia Organa leads a brave resistance. She is desperate to find her brother Luke and gain his help in restoring peace and justice to the galaxy. Leia has sent her most daring pilot on a secret mission to Jakku, where an old ally has discovered a clue to Luke's whereabouts. So, I mean, that's the opening thing you get. We are then introduced to the character of Poe Dameron, who's played by Oscar Isaacs. We have him sort of trying to find this map which supposedly will lead to Luke's whereabouts. Along the way, sort of, he is captured early on. He is then sort of helped to be sort of escape from sort of the First Order by the helps of Finn, who is a stormtrooper who has a crisis of conscience. And they run into, along the way, the character of Rey. You have Finn played by John Boyega and Rey played by Daisy Ridley. So that's as far as I really want to go into sort of anything of the story, because the fact is there's no clip for it, because there's been no clips released for the film aside from the trailers and the promo advert clips and things you get, which is perfectly fine because it's Star Wars. It doesn't need it. You do have the whole thing of the returning cast from previous films. You have the whole thing of J.J. Abrams making basically a film which has brought back the magic from the original trilogy, which was so lacking from George Lucas's prequel trilogy. That's not to say, obviously there's the whole thing of all the effects and everything, but the one thing that they have made a focus of, and which I think really does help sell it, and just how much they wanted to get the feel of the originals, is that they've done so many things practically instead of just going for blue screen effects and that sort of thing, which works really well. You have a great casting in the roles of Finn and Rey. John Boyega is really, really surprising. Daisy Ridley is absolutely brilliant in the film. It's basically, it is the magic of the original trilogy of Star Wars back on the screen. It is in 3D, which you can see it if you want, or take it just as 2D, it's just as well. But it's the thing of it does have a story which is sort of runs along at a fast pace, has characters come in that we know and love. There are great sort of action sequences in it, then also there's story and there's development, and it really is honestly the best Star Wars film that we've had in quite some time, because let's face it, the prequels were really a letdown.
And I'm trying my best to steer in the background a little bit so I can get used to just lord over the film, and then me being the creepy sort of like person, part of the dark side, to sort of like burst your bubble a little bit.
Yeah.
Can I just, before I start, I read it must have been Movie Pilot or one of those terrible clickbait sites today had problems with the film listed, and one of the things, and I swear to God I felt like throwing my iPad out the window, it said one of the big problems with it was that there was too many practical creatures and not enough CGI, because as good as the model making is, it never looks real enough.
There's nothing to that at all. As someone who's seen it in both 2D and 3D, because anything like that could possibly be shown up in that. There's no point in it there is no point in it that I saw an effect that took me out of the film like there was in the prequels. In the prequels, there's loads of effects that you're watching it and CG, and you're going, well, that just looks like a terrible blue screen, or that looks like a terrible alien. It's distracting. There's nothing in this film that has that issue. I will say, and I'm going to be very, very careful here what I say, that it does, for me, reference very strongly one of the original trilogy films, and I'm not going to say which one or anything, but I did feel you could list several kind of plot points as the film goes along, and I did find that is sort of the only bad thing about it that I found. I was like, you could write a list of this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens, and then you could go to someone, am I talking about that film or am I talking about this film? And it's the same thing. You can list several similarities, but it's not like, I mean, one that's just popping in my head, which is not the greatest of examples, but The Hangover Parts 1 and 2. It's not like that where you've literally got a sequel by the numbers of same thing, same thing, same thing, same thing. They have changed things around in it. Just that it did stand out to me that there were these points that I went, well, that's from this, that's from this, that's from this. That was a little bit distracting, but aside from that, you can't fault the film.
I totally agree, and I don't think, I know you're trying to avoid spoilers here, Andy, but I think I'm going to put my neck on the block here. I think a lot of people know by now, because what a lot of people have been talking about is that there's an awful lot of nods back to the original Star Wars: A New Hope, and a lot of people have taken that as a criticism. I don't see it as a criticism, because I think at the end of the day you have to remember that this is kind of Star Wars 2.0, and while it is a love letter to everything that's gone before, it's kind of a soft reboot as well. So what they're almost doing here, and I think it's really smart actually what they've done, is that they've sort of said to everybody that, you know, people have got, I work with people that are in their sort of their early 20s that don't watch Star Wars, that have gone to see this, and you know, they've been like, oh, it's really good, I love this, and I'm like, yeah, but you need to go back now and watch the originals. And I think what it's doing is it's kind of telling the new audience what you've been missing, but it's also giving the fans what they've been missing. Mm-hmm. And I honestly think that while some people are using it as a criticism, I don't think it's a criticism. I think it's really smart. It's really good. I mean, there's even one part in it where, you know, there's kind of the I mean, the poster shows it. It's in the trailers. There's kind of the Death Star in it again, almost with the Star Killer base. And there's actually a part where Han Solo just says, "Yeah, so it's just bigger," you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is. It's bigger.
Just to help you along a little bit, so you know where to go in spoiler territories. The way I look at things, even if it is a film this big, that if it's in the trailer, you can actually talk about it.
Yeah.
So
saying that though, when I saw.
Can't say that though. For example, the remake of Martyrs, which is coming out, it has got the ending in the trailer. It literally has the ending in the trailer. There are parts of the trailer which obviously it's a bit silly to mention, but if it's in the trailer predominantly because the trailer's been shown ad nausea in front of films for the last month, it's been on television multiple times, it's in multiple different areas, that if it's in the trailer, then you can actually talk about it, and it's not deemed as a spoiler.
Saying that though, I did see it. I saw it twice now at the midnight screenings, and then again this morning. And the midnight screening I went to with friends. We booked tickets months in advance, and one of my friends actually made a effort completely to avoid any adverts and trailers, and he managed to see the whole thing without having seen any trailers or anything like that. He completely avoided spoilers, which I'm really impressed at as well, given the number of times it's shown and things like that. But so there is that as well. I mean, the one thing I will say about it, especially having seen it now twice, there are things in it that it's one of those films that there is a depth to it, which again, going back to the previous films, is lacking from the prequels, which is kind of there in present in the original trilogy, but in here there is a depth of things that when you see it once and then you see it again, there will be things that you will pick up on more. I mean, there's at one point there is a vision in the film, and there's a kind of cameo voiceover appearance made by a character from the previous films, and I didn't catch that the first time around. I genuinely didn't, and people were talking about it and I was like, what? I don't know that. And then today I saw it and I was like, oh wow, it is. And it kind of was like a, you know, impressive that it's that kind of richness and depth to the film, which is what's often lacking in sequels now.
The thing is, or if it's the one that I think that you're talking about, you must have actually had your fingers in your ears and your hands over your eyes to actually not get it straight away.
It's not that one, it's another one.
Okay then.
It's in the same thing, but it's not that one. There is one that's really obvious and there's one that's not, unless you're kind of realising and listening out for it. But
I'm curious to hear what your negative side of this is.
For me, I'm sort of like on the opposite side to you when the way you're actually put it across by seeing that it will persuade a lot of people to actually see that this is what you've missed from the original Star Wars trilogy, episodes 4, 5, and 6 when you watch this, because it harkens back to it, so it'll give you an eagerness to go and watch them again. I just felt like the story in episode 7 hasn't evolved at all. It just feels like we're treading pretty much the same ground over and over and over and over again. It just feels like we're seeing the same things, just slightly tweaked. And for me, that was a bit of a weakness. It was sort of like starting to bore me. Even though the film itself is entertaining, it's a good film, it just felt like it was boring me. And my ultimate caveat with the film, and the thing I didn't like the most, is how bad and how one-sided and how flat just everything evil in this film is. So like the dark side, the First Order, how the First Order just felt like a cardboard cutout to what we've seen previously. It just did not work for me. I just didn't feel like anything evil actually worked in the film. Domhnall Gleeson, for example, as General Hux, it was really badly created. He wasn't very good at all in the film. I don't want to see Andy Serkis' character, but that was just horrendous CGI mess. But
it was meant to be sort of a hologram in the film, though.
I know, but I just felt like, considering what we saw in the film itself, it was just badly created, and I hated Kylo Ren. I just did not like him at all. I didn't like Kylo Ren at all.
Oh, Stuart.
I just felt like he was, and a lot of people have gotten on to me.
The other person has hung up.
A lot of people have gotten on to me for thinking like this, but I just felt like Kylo Ren was too much of a spoiled child. It was just too much of somebody who, as soon as he didn't get his own way, threw his dummy out the pram and threw his toys all over the place. And people got that, but for me, it just grated on me.
Stuart, Kylo Ren. I mean, because I was just going to say what you're saying about how there was no layers to the bad guys and to the dark side, the First Order, that's the Empire. I mean, Hux was Grand Moff Tarkin. Peter Cushing played him as a pure black and white, nasty piece of work, which is kind of what Domhnall Gleeson. In fairness, I don't know whether it was him or it was the writing. It doesn't really work for him. He's too young. He doesn't have that kind of gravitas that character needs. But again, I actually thought the very fact that one of the main characters in it is a stormtrooper who turned, to me, kind of highlights that the First Order isn't as tight as the Empire. It's not as good and as strong as the Empire. And I thought Kylo Ren, to be honest with you, I thought he was fantastic. No. I thought he has every possibility that he'll be as big a villain, maybe better than Vader.
No chance. What I also find funny is the fact that Finn was a stormtrooper, yet he worked in sanitation, so that must mean that the First Order must get every single person who works for them to be stormtroopers, no matter what part of the First Order you work for. So if you work in sanitation, you're a stormtrooper, you get sent down to planets like Jakku to try and destroy entire villages and stuff like that, but you still work with sloshing out poo.
Yeah, but the First Order in this is a very fledgling setup. It's not like the Empire. By the time we met the Empire in A New Hope, they'd been around for 20-odd years. Palpatine had been working on them. They were the remnants of the Republic. They're not. The First Order is like this little.
It's kind of like a cult.
Sorry?
It's kind of like a cult.
Yes, and the guys in sanitation, they established in it. I mean, Finn does say at one point that he doesn't remember what his real name was. He doesn't remember his family. So obviously what they're doing is they're taking kids away from the families at an age where they don't even know who they are. They're taking them, they're training them, they're giving them these really menial tasks, and then over a period of time they're making them stormtroopers, because it's multitasking. They have to use what limited resources they have. I mean, in the screen, to me, it really appeared that they only had one Star Destroyer. They had a handful of TIE fighters, and everything that they had was working into this big base. So it's not the Empire. This is not the Empire. The Empire is gone. The Empire is now the New Republic. It was once the Republic, but this is just like a little small faction of what that was.
And I have another problem, but I can't mention it because it's spoilerific, so mention. my other problem.
Okay.
But I didn't get the film.
Is it hemorrhoids?
It might have been. It might just be the way I'm sitting, but I didn't hate the film because I had doubts. I was always looking, as soon as Star Wars: The Force Awakens was announced and all these fanboys were up in arms, going, "Yes, we're finally getting a new Star Wars film," and building up so much hype. And as soon as we start seeing information trickle out about the film itself, and the hype was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was becoming this huge, massive behemoth bubble that the slight little breeze would have exploded it. I tried to steer on the outskirts of this and not build up any hype whatsoever. It's not that I hated well, I don't like episodes 1, 2 and 3 that much. I love 4, 5 and 6, so I do have a connection with the Star Wars series, but there was no hype built up in it, so at least it was actually much better than I was expecting it to be, because I was expecting it to be pretty much on the caliber of episodes 1, 2 and 3. But it was not like that. It did have J.J. Abrams' flair in it, not lens flare in it, which is thanks to heaven.
Saying that, I noticed second time around there were several. They're very, very subtle and different.
The thing is, though, that it's testament then to J.J. Abrams, because if it took you 2 times to actually notice the over-the-top lens flares, whereas his previous films, you get blinded by it. You actually come out with a guide dog and a stick before at the end of the film after seeing something like the last Star Trek movie, because there are lens flare scenes that's blocking very important scenes. That's not the case in this one, so at least he hasn't gone over the top with that kind of stuff. But the film, for me, is good. It's an entertaining film. It's not this exceptional movie that people are making it out to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, it is one of those things that it's a general. Even if you don't get into the whole thing of Star Wars, what it is doing is it is getting people interested, because people are maybe getting taken along to see it by their other half, and then they're seeing it and they're going, "Oh wow, this is fun! I'm enjoying this," and they didn't expect to.
Can I just say one thing that really impressed me with it as well, and it was something that the prequels really hadn't got that it needed, was the humour in it. I thought there was at least a couple of scenes in it that were genuinely laugh out loud, and they didn't feel cheesy or forced. They felt very natural.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because I think Finn is a fantastic character. I think John Boyega is brilliant in the film. I really did like his character. I also liked Rhea as well, played by Daisy Ridley. I think it was a fantastic choice to actually cast her, and then a lot of people were up in arms when they first saw that John Boyega was going to be in the film. They're looking to think, a black guy playing it? Screw that. Just put it. It's stupid looking at if the person is black, or if the other lead character is a female, or anything like that. If they're really good at their job, then just let them play the characters that they're playing. And I think John Boyega hits it out the park. I think his character is really enjoyable to watch throughout the film, and again, same as Daisy Ridley, who plays Rhea. I think she's a really well created character. I love BB-8 as well.
Yeah.
Normally the droids annoy me, but BB-8, I actually want a BB-8.
BB-8 was wonderful. One thing I have to say as well is Jason Isaac. I love Jason Isaac in it, and he has the real potential to be like basically this new generation's Han Solo. He just needs to be written better, because he was so
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac. Sorry.
I was thinking Jason Isaac's in this.
I tell you what, I would watch Jason Isaac in a Star Wars movie. Oscar Isaac, yeah, because I loved Poe Dameron so much. And he gets the first laugh of the movie as well, where he's face to face with Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what happens, but he gets the first laugh of the movie.
Yeah.
And there's a real disservice done to him for about 45 minutes in the middle of the movie. And then I loved him. I thought he could be great, and I thought Boyega and Ridley were fantastic. If you had told me even just a few weeks ago that I would be looking forward to a Star Wars movie that wasn't about Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, whatever, I would have been like, I don't know. But these three, I would quite happily watch a Star Wars movie just about those three characters.
One other quick thing, there was promotion done of the film. Obviously, there is something that they should not have done to sort of like stop people talking about it, if you can get what I mean, if that actually makes any sense. I don't know if it's spoiler territory or whatever, but they used something Star Wars in the past related to promote the film, and yeah, they should not have done that, because then it stopped people questioning.
I don't know what you're on about. No, you lost me. Yeah.
I'm trying my best not to actually see it, just in case, because people might go, damn it, I have not seen the film, and now you've just gone and spoiled something from me.
You can tell us during the clip for the next film.
Yeah, I probably will have to. Well, then, on to the next film, then, it's Star Wars, we're done with. We'll probably be talking about it for the weeks to come. It'll be the first film. We'll end off talking about it a lot more when we return on January the 4th. And it's also the fact that it has broken multiple box office records. It hasn't broke the global box office record because of the fact that it wasn't released in China. That release date, like I said, is January the 4th. So if it did do that, it would have beat Jurassic World's box office record, but it was $8 million short.
I think it did do domestically in America, broke the record for the opening weekend, didn't it?
32 million pounds in the UK when the chart gets released tomorrow. So yeah, it has broken multiple records across the globe, but because the fact it is not out in one big territory, then the film itself, it's done brilliantly for itself, but it will not pass the $1 billion mark before.
But bear in mind as well that Disney said as well a few weeks ago that because it's a Christmas release, it's a winter release, which traditionally don't do anywhere near as well as summer blockbusters. So that makes it even more impressive what it's done.
It's just because the fact that Jurassic World had that really rare thing where it was released in like the 3 biggest territories, which is the US, the UK and China. It was released at exactly the same time in those 3 territories, whereas if Star Wars had that, Star Wars would have easily, I would have thought it might have gotten very close to 600 million in its opening weekend worldwide box office. So if it did that, then it would have been very close to the $1 billion mark before the end of the year. But because of the fact that China aren't getting to see it until January the 4th, then unfortunately that's not going to be the case.
China basically isn't a great market for Star Wars. As far as I could be wrong, but I believe that apparently China just don't get Star Wars.
Yeah, that can be the case, but if you look at the way the Chinese market has been going over the last few years, there are multiple films that you never would have thought would have done as well. For example, with this announcing in the news story there, Terminator 2 is getting a 3D re-release, and one of the big factions behind that is the fact that China is a huge market for the Terminator series. It's always done really well in China, and Jurassic World, you would never expected it to do as well as it did in somewhere like China, in the Asian countries, but it did do brilliant numbers. So it has evolved more so when the rules have become much more laxed, because they were tighter when episodes 1, 2 and 3 came out, and even so when episodes 4, 5 and 6 came out. So it was a harder sell then, but now they're able to have, the rules are much less in China, so those kind of movies, these big CGI movies, are doing much better, and that's the reason why they are the 3rd biggest territory.
Whatever happens in China, we've just got to agree. One of my friends put it perfectly, what's happened basically with Disney buying the rights to Star Wars off of George Lucas, and that is that they basically just bought the rights to just print money, because that's what the series is going to do for them. I mean, this has proved that the future films we've got, obviously next Christmas, is going to be Rogue One, which will maybe not be as big as this, but it's going to be big anyway still. So I mean, the franchise is just going from strength to strength now, thanks to this film being as great as it is.
And then you've got Rian Johnson's episode 8, which I'm really eagerly looking forward to, because I like Rian Johnson.
That's only a year and a half away, because it's going back to the May release, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Christmas next year, Rogue One, and then a couple months later, 5 months later, episode 8.
With this and Marvel, Disney basically owns the box office.
Yeah. I mean, even funny guys, I was getting Christmas presents in the Disney store in Belfast, and the Disney store has basically become the Star Wars Marvel store.
Yeah.
Have you seen that in one of the Star Wars sets that they've actually left out Rey?
The what?
In some of these, some of the main Star Wars sets where they've got the new characters in it, Rey has been left out.
Yeah, I know, the main character in the movie. Thank you, sexism. Yeah,
it's just unbelievable that Rey has been left out of some of the sets, which is just, it boggles your mind.
And they've put Darth Vader in it.
Yeah.
What?
He only appears in mask form, in a mask that's completely dilapidated, and that's it.
Yeah, no, it's the full Vader. It's not even his melted helmet. Easy. But yeah, terrible. Anyway, okay.
Peanuts movie then, because there are a couple of other films out this week. Well, Peanuts movie is released today, and the other film that we're looking at, In the Heart of the Sea, is out on Boxing Day, so it's out on Saturday. But both me and you, Mark, have seen Snoopy and Charlie Brown, the Peanuts movie, if you give it its full title. And all it is, it's just sort of like a big screen outing of the Peanuts movie, of the characters that we love, which is Charlie Brown and Snoopy. Taking them from the small screen where we used to watch it on a Sunday, just before the Smash Hits Paul's Winners Party, for me anyway. I know that's going back, isn't it? In the UK, that is. And so, you used to get the special there, and you used to get the Christmas special, and so taking the helm on this, writers Brian Schultz and Craig Schultz, the grandson and son of Charles Schultz, who created the series, and it just centres around Charlie Brown. A new girl moves in next door. He falls for this new girl. He tries his best to impress him. He is the bumbling Mr. Bean kind of idiot. And then you've got his dog sidekick, his beagle dog sidekick in the form of Snoopy, who's going up against the Red Baron when in dream form. So two sort of like movies interleaving together with each other. Here's a clip.
Oh, Charlie Brown! I'll hold the football and you kick it.
You say you'll hold it, but what you really mean is you'll pull it away and I'll land on my back and I'll kill myself.
But I feel I have really come to know you. I now understand that you are kind, compassionate, brave, and funny. No one would pull a football away from a person with all those qualities.
She's right. I would never pull the ball away from someone with all those qualities. I'm gonna kick this ball all the way to the moon.
And gullible. I forgot to mention gullible.
So the thing with Snoopy and Charlie Brown the Peanuts movie is, animation-wise, it's fine. It's nothing any special. It sort of like takes what the original animation was like and adds a little bit more depth to it, but that's about it. It's going for nostalgia. That's what this film is. It's going for the people who grew up with Snoopy and Charlie Brown, and that's its biggest problem, I think, because the fact that a lot of people who are going to go and see this movie will know who Snoopy and Charlie Brown is. If they're taking their kids, they might not know that much about them, and they're not going to fall for the characters because they're going to look at the charm and think it's lacking. The Snoopy stuff is really entertaining, really well created, and sort of like you think to yourself, actually that should have just been the whole movie, like a 45-minute movie, direct to DVD maybes, and that's what it should have been all about. It should have been Snoopy versus the Red Baron, not Snoopy and Charlie Brown the Peanuts movie, because the Charlie Brown stuff, it just doesn't have any depth. It just doesn't. It's just lacking any of the heart from the Snoopy and Charlie Brown stuff that we know and love as kids. If you grew up on it, it's that nostalgia thing, and you go, ah, yes, I remember that. But if you've got kids with it, they'll just look at it and go, I don't find this fun. Can I watch Inside Out again, or can I get a Baymax?
I have a question about it, actually, then, given the animation style of it, because I don't remember if you saw it. I don't think you did, but the Top Cat movie, which was atrocious and had the whole old style animation but mixed with the 3D effects and stuff sort of done. Is the animation in this anything like that? Is the animation actually is it a good sort of adaptation of a 2D animation to cinema, or is it as bad as that?
No, because the way you look at it is the Top Cat movie did something very similar to South Park. It's sort of like in a way it took 2D cardboard cutouts and put them on a 3D background, which South Park revels at, and that's South Park's raison d'etre. That's its main thing. Snoopy and Charlie Brown doesn't do that. It sort of like exists in 2.5D in a way. It doesn't fully round out the characters, but there is depth to them there.
Okay.
I actually like the animation. I kind of like the animation style. But it's interesting what you're saying, Stuart, because I gotta be honest, I don't know whether it's because I'm over in Ireland or what, but I have never seen Snoopy or Charlie Brown. I know who they are, and I've never seen a very Charlie Brown Christmas or Snoopy Christmas, whatever you call it. But again, I know who these characters are because they're just such a big part of culture. But I took my kids to it and they'd never seen it, and we all liked it. I thought it was funny, it was fun, it was sweet. I know you're saying it, but there's not a lot of depth to it. It kind of wears its heart on sleeve, though. It's a very simple story. It's about a kid who has a crush on another kid, and you know his dog and his mates help him sort it out, and it kind of just delivered what I wanted it to deliver. I thought it was fun, it was nice, it was sweet, but nothing particularly special.
There's not enough in the film itself to justify it to be a film length. There is enough there to make it one of those Charlie Brown specials where it's on for like 45 minutes. But there is a lot of stuff that you could have easily just reeled back in the film itself and squashed it down and took out things and changed a few little things to make it that 45-minute special. It just didn't justify itself for being a full theatrical release. It was just Sony was going, yes, we've got the sort of like the distribution rights to it, let's make an entire film out of it, and we'll bring back a lot of nostalgia. Because if you look at the films that's been released this Christmas, there hasn't been one that's been fully directed towards kids. Because if you look at last year, you had Nativity 3, which is a terrible series, but the first one's not bad. But it's the other two are awful films, but at least it's a Christmas film that's directed towards kids. And so this is technically the only one that's out this year that's fully directed towards kids, Christmas-wise, because it has got that Christmassy kind of feel to it. And it should have just been a direct-to-DVD or one of these specials that the BBC has managed to snap up for 45 minutes, not the full 80-minute, 90-minute running time. And it proved that they were trying their best to get as many people to see it when it had 2 weekends of previews, because it knew that it was getting released on the 21st, going up against the behemoth that is Star Wars, so it needed some help to try and get enough people to go and see it, because kids, they'll be more interested to go and see Star Wars, with it being a 12-year, the parents can take them along to it, than to go along and see Snoopy and Charlie Brown.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And that is my phone going off, and so that's professionalism for you.
Okay, shall I go on to then In the Heart of the Sea?
Yes.
Yep. Which is directed by Ron Howard. It is the story based on the true story that inspired the story of Moby Dick, which is set during the 1820. That you have the ship, the Essex, the whaling ship Essex, went on its final disastrous journey. And basically centering around the main characters on board. That you have Owen Chase, played by Chris Hemsworth, who is a man who is a experienced first mate on a ship, doing sort of going out and capturing whales and killing whales for hunting. He is sort of expecting to be given his own captaincy of a ship, whereas he then is made first mate on another ship under the command of a new captain who has no experience, played by Benjamin Walker. Plays George Pollard, who is given the title of captain because he is from a well-to-do family, and you have in there as well thrown in the character of Matthew Joy, played by Cillian Murphy, who plays the second mate of the ship. All the while this going on, while it cuts back and forth between the events that happened in 1820 and some years later, when you have Tom Nickerson, the last surviving member of the crew, played by Brendan Gleeson, being interviewed by Herman Melville, played by Ben Whishaw. All the time sort of going back and looking at the whole thing of the situation that led to the problems that happened, partly of which was to do with the tension between the captain and his first mate. Here's a clip.
Told your father grew corn on Cape Cod.
That's right, he did. As you can imagine, I suddenly grew tired of eating it every day.
Corn, okra, beans, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Before he went to jail. Are you familiar with the story, Mr. Joy?
Sir?
Were you aware that Mr. Chase was effectively orphaned due to his father's incarceration?
Well, we all have our paths to see. As a rule, we tend not to ask too many questions.
Can't have been easy, though. Yet, you had Nantucket's great seafaring family to adopt you.
This is far from the first time I've been called a landsman or an Alpha Islander by some Nantucketer reminding me how I am not a part of that family. Now, if the captain will excuse me, there are whale boats and watches to his side.
So, I mean, it's a case of that. I mean, I suppose some of the things I was going over there could be considered spoilerish, but this is all sort of set up at the beginning of the film, because the very first opening of the shot of the film is a voiceover by Ben Wishaw's character as he then goes to interview Tom Nickerson, and it's said at the very start, the last surviving member of the Essex. And it's a film that it isn't Moby Dick as much as it is about the whole thing that inspired the story of Moby Dick. it isn't Moby Dick. It is completely different because of the fact that Moby Dick is a fiction based on this. And when there's ever any kind of fiction, even if it's based on a true story, unless you're saying this is the story that actually happened, if it's because there is issues made as well at certain points during the film where even Melville says, no, this will be a work of fiction because of things that happened which cannot be, at the time, obviously during the 1800s, that were distasteful, let's say. And so those things that were left out, and then obviously it's made into a work of fiction about the whole thing of the whale, and it becomes this whole thing about trying to catch the whale and trying to kill the whale, and the revenge and that sort of thing, and obsession of that. And this film isn't about that. There's a little bit to that, but it's not about that. It is about a disaster and the men then trying to survive it. And the thing that's interesting about it is I've seen some reviews that were really sort of snotty about this and really were horrible to this. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but I do think that a lot of reviews on this film have been very harsh unnecessarily. It's not a bad film. It's Ron Howard doing what Ron Howard does well, which is it's a solid direction. It does have some sequences which are really let down, especially going back to sort of Star Wars and talking about special effects. There's some sequences with the whale that are genuinely surprising in the level of effects works that you can get now, that they are this distractingly bad. I will say that. But the film is filled with above average performances. It's shot well. Chris Hemsworth, I will say, the poor guy really does need to get some voice coaches in his life. After you had Snow White and the Huntsman, which his accent was terrible in that, his accent here is not much better because he's obviously trying to do sort of old English American style sort of acting voice, and it wavers from start to finish. It does all the way through, and that is a distraction. Cillian Murphy is underused. It's actually criminal how much he's underused. The character George Pollard, Benjamin Walker, who I've not seen in anything before, was actually really good. And the scenes with Ben Whishaw and Brendan Gleeson are really well handled as well. But they do affect the pacing, and the pacing of the movie is where it struggles the most. It has this whole thing of there's a little bit of action, something happens, and then it's really slows to a crawl, and then it gets something happens, and it goes really slows to a crawl. That is where the film has its biggest weakness. But I do think that it's a film that's maybe not for everyone, that they're not going to enjoy it going to see it at the cinema. If you're curious about it and you want to see it, then go see it. If you're not sure, but you like sort of the whole thing of sea, the old sort of sailing ships and that kind of thing, then actually at Christmas there is a film on television which you'll be able to see for free, and that is the film Master and Commander, which is on over Christmas. Then just see that instead, because you'll enjoy that more. And I have nothing against this film, but Master and Commander is most certainly the better of the two films with this sort of subject of men at sea. It's just that this is more of a disaster and the whole thing of men at their worst, and Master and Commander is a war film largely. So different things, but if you're into sort of the whole sea thing and you're not sure about this, then maybe not for everyone. If you are curious about it, if you do like the cast, if you see something in the trailer you like, then go and see it, because it is a worthy film. It's just not that great. It's good, but not great.
That's it for this week's cinema section of the show. Mark, before you disappear, I did ask you during the clip that we played there of any films that you've really enjoyed this year, but you just said that you saw about 3 films.
Yeah, I see, honestly guys, I see very few films, but it's just it's because I have kids, I work long hours, I run the website. But having said that, next year there's a lot of movies that some I'm really looking forward to, a lot I'm really curious about. Any you want to reveal? You know, the one movie that I'm looking forward to, and I was looking forward to this even more than Star Wars, believe it or not, is Batman vs Superman. I've waited 30 years to see this.
So what did that trailer do for you then? Because I know the trailer was released it's about a week ago now, a week and a half ago that the new trailer was released. Did it do anything for you? Did it heighten the excitement, or a lot of people when they saw that trailer, the skepticism started to sink in more so?
You know, I'll be honest with you, the second trailer, the first trailer, the last one was the third trailer, so the first and second trailer I really loved. The third trailer, I watched it. I woke up and I watched it on my iPhone because it came out this time. In our part of the world, it came out at like 4 in the morning or something. And I watched it first thing in the morning. I was like, really? God, that looks awful. But then I watched it another couple of times, and I can see it's a knee-jerk reaction because DC are getting this whole flack about, oh, there's no humour in DC movies, and they tried to interject this humour into it. But on seeing it again, I love the fact that Bruce Wayne is giving Clark Kent a hard time. He's calling him a costume freak. I love that. I think Jesse Eisenberg, everybody's worried about what he's going to do with Lex Luthor. This isn't Lex Luthor. What we're seeing is like this public face that he has. There's going to be a lot more to Lex Luthor when we get to see him in the I'm going to kill Superman mode. And yes, I really, this is the movie that I'm hedging all my bets on, and Suicide Squad, of course, later on.
Yeah, it's sort of like Suicide Squad with Jared Leto as Joker in that one. It's a different Joker. It's not a Joker we'll have seen before in any of the previous Batman films. That was the whole point of getting somebody like Jared Leto to play him. They didn't want to copy what Heath Ledger did. They didn't want to copy what Jack Nicholson did. They want to give him his own unique appearance, and that's what they've done with that. And so I agree with you. I mean, with Luthor as well.
I think as well, hasn't Ben Affleck said as well that his Batman is a lot more angrier because of events that have been leading up, obviously with events in Man of Steel have left his character a lot more angrier about the situation as well. So
he looks a lot more angry. He looks like the kind of person where if a cat walked past him, he would actually kick it and send it flying rather than just stroke it. So he does look. Is there any other films out next year that you're eagerly waiting? That's not comic book related.
Well, see, I've sort of got to the stage where the only movies that I get excited for now are comic book ones, because if it hasn't got big spectacle on the screen, I don't have time to go and see it in the cinema. The other smaller movies I wait and see as home releases and stuff. I mean, the other movie, of course, this year, my all-time favourite movie is Ghostbusters. I'm dreading and very excited for what Paul Feig is going to do with Ghostbusters. This July. I don't know how. I was the angry nerd a few months ago. I wasn't sexist, by the way. I want anybody to think that I'm one of those guys saying, "Oh, women can't be Ghostbusters." I love that idea. I think that's a great idea.
I got a lot of flack for that, and I didn't say anything about that. I just said the fact of that it looks like a terrible Ghostbusters. Yeah. And I'm not even a fan of the original Ghostbusters. I've seen them. Actually, the first one, to be honest, the library ghost at the beginning still scares the crap out of me to this day.
To me, it just looks like a Paul Feig film. The ideas that he's coming up with, and that's my biggest problem with it. It's not that it's the fact that it's a female Ghostbusters. It's the fact that it's a Paul Feig movie.
It's true. Well, you know, here the thing that gives me some hope, and I have to be honest with you, I quite liked Spy. I didn't love it.
Yeah, Spy was actually a step up for him, but still too many of the whole Melissa McCarthy doing the same thing.
Yeah, and then you'll be dragged along to see some kids films as well, because your kids all want to see like Kung Fu Panda 3 and the new Ice Age movie, and probably Secret Life of Pets from Illumination Entertainment, which did the Minions film. So
yeah, my wee girl can't wait to see the Secret Life of Pets. She just talks about that constantly after seeing the trailer a few times. The BFG, Spielberg's BFG, looks beautiful. I can't wait to see what he does with that.
Yeah, so there is, and obviously Pixar will have a new film out near the end of the year as
Finding
well.
Dory, haven't they? That's coming out, which I'm so not excited for. I honestly think I loved Inside Out, but I think Pixar burned out. I think Inside Out was kind of the exception that proves the rule. I think Pixar need to relax. Stop making Cars movies, stop making sequels, stop making. The only sequel anybody wants from Pixar is Incredibles, which I know we're going to get because Brad said he's working on it. But I really, really think before Inside Out, the last good thing that they made, I loved Brave. I thought Brave was amazing, even though nobody seems to like it. But I really think Pixar need to just relax for a wee while and, take stock of their kingdom and then move forward again.
Yeah, and you've got the Oscar bait movies obviously coming out. You've got the Danish Girl, which is out on January the 1st. Eddie Redmayne is getting a lot of plaudits for that alongside Alicia Vikander, and you've also got Joy as well, the David O. Russell film. You've got The Hateful Eight, which is Tarantino's new film,
that is, sorry Stuart, that I am so excited for.
It's been leaked online, unfortunately. It's very much the same with any film that's sort of like get any kind of Oscar buzz. They seem to get leaked online no matter what. So The Hateful Eight is online, The Revenant has been leaked online as well, and so Quentin Tarantino is not going to be very happy at all. But whenever is he actually a happy person? You've got
I think The Hateful Eight, I really don't think a real fan's going to go and download that. I mean, It's online, fine. I'm not even going to go and try and look for it because I want to go and see it in the cinema. I want, because I didn't see Django Unchained. Django Unchained was one of those movies that got past me. Do you know sometimes a movie that you're really looking forward to gets past you, and it gets to the point where you're almost like, I could not be bothered going back and watching that. When I watched Django, it just rocked my world, and I want The Hateful Eight to be that movie again.
I'm curious actually if I can ask you, because then if you're into sort of westerns, I take it then a bit now.
See, Andy, it's hard to believe, right? And I know you guys have me on here because I am a movie fan. A few years ago, see, before I had kids and stuff, I could have told you who the second unit director was. I could have told you. Now I've turned into the guy that says, "Oh, that's your man that's in that film with, what do you call him?"
Well, that's Andrew week in, week out.
Yeah, I keep forgetting people's names too. Yeah. No, but I'm curious because Stuart and I have discussed this. That there was a Netflix released film. Which is a western spoof, and he absolutely hated it. I surprisingly was kind of enjoyed it as much as it is an Adam Sandler film, and that's The Ridiculous Six. Have you seen it?
No, wouldn't even watch it.
It's horrible.
It's not horrible.
It instantly made my top 10 worst list films of the year. Instantly.
Yeah, Adam Sandler, I wouldn't watch him if he was on Fire in the Back Garden. I gotta be honest.
But he managed to do 4 films this year.
I didn't hate Pixels. Is that wrong? I didn't hate Pixels.
Yeah, the best film that he did, I think, was Pixels, and then Hotel Transylvania 2 and A Cobbler. But I'll get that onto that in a couple of days' time, because if we do, we'll be here forever. But we're kicking you off now, Mark.
Right, well, listen, guys, thank you for having me on, and happy Christmas to you both, and to all your listeners as well. And you know what, anytime you want me on the show, it's always a pleasure to come on and talk movies.
Well, thanks for coming on.
No, it was my pleasure.
Probably when the next Marvel film is out, we'll probably grab you in as well, so you can give a little bit of hate and and then same with DC, because people think that you're a Marvel hater or a DC hater. So
I am so not a Marvel hater.
It's nice to get the firing squad away from me for once. So that's always a pleasure to get somebody on.
How did you manage? How did you manage to make me come off badly in that?
Why not? But yeah, followingthenerd.com is your website. Fantastic website. We've been a part of it for the last, pretty much 4 years, to be honest. And it's a brilliant platform for us to be a part of. And like you say, you want to evolve the site more so in 2016. Try to add more interesting content in the form of podcasts and all that kind of stuff. So people should head over to followingthenerd.com for all your daily geeky content in a way.
Very good, and we'll be sure to have you guys as a part of that as well. Because Andy, I know it never really suited schedule-wise, but we definitely want to make you a part of it as well in the new year. And Stuart, you're an old hand. We're sick of the sight of you at this stage.
I know, everybody is. I'm like that people that nobody likes who sits
it's always that,
like W.H. Smith's asking for change or something.
It was always when you're doing the show, it always
selling the latest edition of The Big Issue.
It always turned out to be on the nights when I have things weekly that go on, so it's like, I can't do the show. And I'd be like, get a message from Stuart, it's like, can you go on the show, because I can't do it tonight. I'd have to rush home and manage to do it.
We'll change that during the year, because less live shows, more weekly product. That's the plan.
And it's easy to edit that kind of stuff as well. So
well, we don't edit this. This just goes out live. So any screw ups stay in there. Yeah.
Oh, now you tell me.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, again, thank you very much for joining us, and we will be back in a moment with the DVD and Blu Ray section of the show.
Thanks, guys.
From page to screen. So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look, but sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, now that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting, about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. It'd be like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
And we're back with this week's DVD and Blu Ray releases, including not only this week's releases, but also those coming up the week after. And these include...
Yeah, so out today, Monday, my brain is all messed around because the fact that I haven't been at work today and it's really rare that I get a Monday off. And the fact that we're on a Monday as well and we're on time.
Yeah.
That's the rarest thing. The last show of the year, proper show of the year, and we're on time. But yeah, we're looking at these films, which are Hitman Agent 47, Outcast and Precinct 75. And out on December the 28th, so next week, because the fact that we're not back until January the 4th, or round about that. We're looking at Sinister 2, Ricky and the Flash, and Transporter Refuelled.
Yep, but before that, of course, starting off as we do with the UK Blu Ray and DVD Top 10.
Yep, which you're reading out and I'm commenting on.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm reading.
No, you did, yeah, because I did it in the first half of the show.
Have you actually got any TV movies of the week?
I have got, I've got about 15 or so.
That's cheating. I got 3, and I made sure I only got 3 films stretched over the next couple of weeks. And I've actually looked at channels and said, if I choose a film from that channel, I'm not allowed to choose another film from that channel.
Oh well, so, I've got a whole load of them. I mean, I'll point out. I just want to go point out a whole load that are on, and then I will pick out a couple myself to say, watch these ones.
The Blu-ray and DVD Top 10 hasn't changed that much. So at number 10 is Jurassic World.
Yeah, I mean, I finally picked this up, but discounted second hand, and that's kind of, for me, that's the kind of the movie it is. It is a movie that I wouldn't buy at brand new full price because I just don't think it's that great. It is good. It's worthy of it's a worthy sequel. It's better than the third one, but there is this kind of thing of that it's kind of repeating itself, and the whole thing of adding this new dinosaur in that just it does feel kind of very much of. It's a very much let's see how much more money we can make from this franchise and reboot it sort of thing.
I was going to pick it up from my local CEX because they had multiple copies in that.
That's where I got it. Yeah, that's where I got it.
£6.50, but it was the 3D version that they had.
Oh well, I just got the 2D one. I just got.
The 3D version doesn't come with the 2D version. It doesn't. No, it's just the 3D version and the ultraviolet code, and that's it.
Ah, that's very unusual.
I would have gladly picked it up and had like a 3D copy, and I might have just said, "Oh, I'll give it to somebody aware on the shore, or whoever wants a 3D copy of the film." I would have just given it to, or given it to a friend because they've got a 3D setup. But I was going to buy it for £6.50. I didn't mind spending the money on that, but because the fact that it was just the 3D edition, then they had no 2D editions in. So
to be honest, I mean, going back to in the first half of the show, saying about Star Wars. It's in 3D, but you don't need it because the other 3 films weren't in 3D. I mean, I know they re-released the first one in 3D, but it didn't need to be done.
Which, by the way, you can actually pre-purchase it now. And I saw your little moan about Skyfall. No, it's Spectre. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's Sky we're doing, but yeah. Number 9, Pixels.
Which is, I mean, it is an Adam Sandler film. It is an above-average Adam Sandler film, but it's a below-average Christopher Columbus film. It's dragged down by Adam Sandler, Kevin Hart, and everyone in there. That just it's a very, very late film, and by that I mean it's 20 years too late. The jokes in it are 20 years too late. The story is 20 years too late. It's just, if it had been released 20 years ago, I would have been giving it praise because it would have been very timely. It just feels like someone's gone, oh, this script you had from when you were a kid and you wanted to make it, let's do it now.
8, 7 and 6 are live stand-up stuff, so you've got Kevin Bridges at 8, Mrs. Brown's Boys at 7, Michael McIntyre at 6, so at number 5 is Ant-Man.
Which I really did enjoy. It's a film that it's the first time that Marvel is, even kind of by their own admission in the film, it's not about saving the world, it's about saving theirs, the family's lives sort of thing. It's about the smaller things, and without it being an in-joke, that genuinely is kind of the mantra of the film. I think it's very cleverly done. I think it's witty. It's kind of got this whole heist feel going to it instead of it being a big action film, but it does have action in it, and it's a film that, as much as it's had problems during the production, and you can see that in it, they don't sort of stand out as much as some other films. I suspect things like the Friendly Dinosaur. Is it Friendly Dinosaur?
Yeah, The Good Dinosaur.
The Good Dinosaur, yeah. Obviously, I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard so many people saying that it's a film that is very split between, you can see what they've done before and the things they've done after they had people intervene and change it to try and make it a better film. And it's not so obvious with Ant-Man that that's happened.
At number 4 is Minions.
I mean, what more can we say about this? It's funny, it's brilliant, it's a laugh. It's Kevin, Stewart, and Bob.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's all you need, as well as them just going bottom. That's it.
They don't actually.
I know they don't do it in that film, but it's like, that is the Minions in a hat.
Yeah, and a hat which makes people do whatever they want to and start to make gods in the Tower of London dance along to the song Hell and spank each other's bottoms and stuff.
Yeah.
They get away with a lot. If you watch that film,
it's a bit testy, isn't it?
A lot of very risky kind of carry-on jokes. It's a U-rated film, yet you've got minions which are dressed up as an old woman with talking boobs and all that kind of stuff, and that's the kind of thing you would expect in a carry-on movie. So it sort of like harkens back to that kind of titillation kind of comedy that us in the UK were prevalent to in the 1940s all the way up to the 70s. So it shows you, if you look at the Minions in depth, which you shouldn't, because you should just watch it for the entertaining thing that it is. But if you're one of these people who take film as a course in university or whatever and analyze the Minions, there is a lot of depth there which you probably just don't notice when you just watch it as a normal movie.
Carry On and Benny Hill especially.
Yeah, and so Carry On Minions, which is probably the next Carry On film. At number 3 is a new entry for the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't go in at number 1, but it has gone in quite high up the chart. I mean, it's a film that probably a lot of people have bought for Christmas presents, and it's going to disappoint people when they see it. I mean, I actually heard someone the other day saying they saw it, and I don't know why everyone was saying it's bad. It was good. Honestly, no. You don't know what you're talking about. It's an awful film. It's horrible. And the reason that I say that is because the Fantastic Four is one of the ones that I know the characters from when I was younger, reading them and following the characters, and it is a complete... It does not treat the characters well or faithfully or with any kind of respect at all. It's horrible. It's abhorrent, and it really should not have been allowed, first of all, to happen, because we know obviously there were problems that happened behind the scenes, and it's a film that it's a complete mistake of a film. It really should have been corrected.
What annoys me more is that two directors who I thought were very interesting ones, up and coming directors, that their debut films, Josh Trank did Chronicle, and Kieran Foy, he did a film called Citadel, released two really bad films this year, and it makes you question them whether they were just sort of like the drop in the pan kind of directors. So Josh Trank, he did do Fantastic Four, and it makes you think, was Chronicle sort of like his peak? Or does he have something special to actually do? And the same with Kieran Foy. He did do Citadel, which I really liked, but he also released Sinister 2, which is a horrible, horrible movie. And so it makes you think, well, is that it? And it annoys me because I was looking forward to what Trank was going to do next, and then he did Fantastic Four, and it definitely isn't fantastic. What is nice to see, though, that lacking from the top 10, as a matter of fact, it only went in at number 40, was Vacation. So I'm glad that it went in such a low entry, because that movie is awful.
And it's on our worst 10 of the year films as well.
Yeah. At number 2 is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, which
is it's not the best in the franchise. That was Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, but it's a worthy film. It's a good action film. It's got a decent story to it. It does, I will admit, your view of it does kind of taper off a bit towards the end in the third act. But I did enjoy it. I thought it was very well handled and a solid film all round.
And gone back up to the number 1 spot is Inside Out.
Yeah, I mean, probably because of Christmas, and there'll probably be some kind of deal on somewhere in it, because it being Disney and Pixar. It is a fantastic film. It is brilliantly realised. The whole thing of that Mark was saying about Pixar earlier kind of holds some truth, because the thing that Pixar does really well is ingenuity. When they have something that's new and fresh and an idea they can mess around with, and they can subvert people's opinions of things and change the way that people expect something to work. I mean, as an example, a prime example in this film is a scene with the abstract reality and the abstract thought sequence, which genuinely blew me away, of just being a genius idea, genius sequence. And that is the kind of thing, the kind of innovation that Pixar, when they do it right, they do it really, really, really right.
Yep, and that's the Blu-ray, the final Blu-ray and DVD top 10 for us anyway for 2015.
Yep. So because we have a weird thing, normally we split up the films between us, and we have a thing sort of going back and forth between us. Unfortunately, because of the way it's worked out, we do have 3 films released today and 3 films that are released next week. And I've seen all 3 ones this week. You've seen all 3 ones next week. So I'm going to go and rattle off through them. I actually don't have clips for any of them because of the fact of that. Well, I'll get to that in a second with the first one. Hitman Agent 47. which is directed by Alexander Bach. It is a second film sort of following the adaptation of the Hitman computer game series. Here you have the main character is sort of brought in when there's a woman who is looking for her father. She doesn't really know what's going on, but she knows that things aren't quite right. She is sort of then found by a agent that's played by I forget his name from Star Trek, Jackie Quinto, who turns up and sort of tells her, you know, there's an agent looking for you. He's a hitman. He will try and kill you. Come with us. We'll give you protection. Not necessarily everything is as you kind of think, but the problem is that it's one of those films that has, you know, a dumbed down story in favour of ludicrous, stupid action sequences. And the thing is, it's one of those films where you have action sequences that aren't even very actiony, and by that I mean exciting or intricate or well thought out or anything particularly special. It's one of those kind of things that, though he has nothing to do with it, I don't believe. It could have the name. It could have, you know, produced by or written by Luc Besson on it. It's that kind of a thing. It's this European thing that is literally one of those typical dumb action, horrible things. Kind of like one that you're talking about later on. Similar kind of thing. It is this film, as far as I'm concerned, and that film, which we'll get to in a bit, are kind of on the same level. It's just a complete waste of material, because the Hitman franchise does have a lot of mythology to it and does have a lot of depth to it, and it has interesting things to the character. I don't know them all, but I know they exist, and they're not in the film because I know that because of the fact of there's no character in this film. There really is no character. It has a couple of little things about it, but you just kind of go, well, what's this about then, and do I care? And by the end of it, you just kind of go, well, no, I don't.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's a lacking film. There is depth to the Hitman character, like you said, and it makes you harken back to Timothy Olyphant's version of Agent 47,
which was much better than Rupert
Friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first thing, if you're a big fan of the video game series, at least Timothy Olyphant went all the way and shaved his head, whereas Rupert Friend has got hair. Agent 47 does not have a trace of a single hair on his head. It's like Homer Simpson, but Homer Simpson's got more hair. You could shine his head and he'd look like a bowling ball. That's the way him and Agent 47 was, because he was a clone, so it's all about that barcode on the back. Where they gave him a bit of a haircut in this one, and so it instantly gives you alarm bells if you're a fan of the series, and that's all this film is aimed at. It's not aimed at anybody who's in action movies, because you're not going to get the character. The people who play the video games are the ones who are going to get that. And if you play the Hitman games, it's not about big action set pieces or anything like that. It's all about methodically planning out how he's going to get his target. And even though if you look at Hitman, the first one with Timothy Olyphant in it, it's got a few big action set pieces, at least he got Agent 47's mannerisms correct. Whereas Rupert Friend, he just hasn't a clue, and they've just made it a glorified, boring action film without any depth to his character at all. So it goes hand in hand with the film that I'm going to review a little bit later on. As a double bill that will instantly send you to sleep.
So my next film is Outcast, which is a film. It did get a small cinematic release, but it's largely been a sort of a video on demand and now DVD and Blu Ray release. It is a film that's set during sort of medieval times. You have the whole thing of the Crusades, where at the beginning you're introduced to two characters played by Hayden Christensen and Nicolas Cage. Hayden Christensen's character has sort of gone off the rails a bit and killed a lot of people, and the two of them part ways sort of very angrily. Some years later, he's now a bit of a wanderer, is a drunkard who wanders around not particularly happy, obviously, with realising his horrors and everything, and he finds himself in China, where the young emperor is now on the run from his brother, who wants to kill him to gain sort of, you know, the throne, and he has to Hayden Christensen's character has to team up with them and defend them and bring them to his old master, who is of course Nicolas Cage, who's playing the typical really bad Nicolas Cage performance and role, and it's just awful. It really is. And I mean, the thing is, it's a film which has very, very bad sort of story and very basic, no sort of real setup or anything. It's despite an opening which has potential, it just has a horrible thing because Hayden Christensen is bad in it. Nicolas Cage is full on chewing scenery drunk in the film. And I'm not sure as to whether or not he's playing it or if he genuinely is sort of realised, oh God, what am I in? Got drunk and then turned up on set. And I mean, it's directed by Nick Powell, who is not a director. It's his first film he's ever done. And if you look him up, you will see he's got an extensive history in stunts, and a great stuntsman. And the film has a couple of good stunts in it. So he knows what he's doing in that department. He just has no idea when it comes to directing. It's not well directed. It's not even well shot. It's not particularly well edited. It is a film that's literally, you know, not even your B movies. It's a C or D movie film. It's pretty awful.
And I have no intentions whatsoever to see it because I've got so many films over the Christmas period. Even though we don't have any shows, it's still the sort of like time when I can watch a few films to catch up on. That's definitely not one of them.
The thing that surprised me is just thinking about it now. I think I actually left it out and didn't realise when I was counting out my worst films of the year, because I don't think it's in my top 10, and it should be.
There's a few films that did that when I was going over my list when we were working out our overall top 10 films of the year and worst films. There was a couple of which you realised, and we instantly put one in the worst list because the fact that you forgot about it.
Yeah, I may have to do that with Outcast, but that means if we're going to put it in the joint one, you need to see it as well.
Yeah, it's with the show going out either tomorrow night, Tuesday night, or Wednesday night. There's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah. So the third film I'm doing is Precinct 7-5, which is a documentary by Tyler Russell, I'm not sure. It is a film that sort of centers around the precinct in Brooklyn, New York, where you have the Precinct 7-5, which was essentially at the time found out to be full of the most dirtiest and corrupt cops that there ever were in the area. It's in the 1980s, and you have, in particular, sort of a cop that was at the centre of the whole allegations and everything when it broke, Michael Dowd, who appears in the film, as do a few other ones in interviews and in sort of archival footage and, you know, newspaper clippings and things. And it basically explains the whole thing about how, you know, they started off as policemen and then things got worse and worse. And the whole thing of that several times the character of Michael Dowd is brought into question by people at the time who said, you know, he's not really a cop, he is a bad guy. He's a cop, he's a bad guy dressed as a cop. And it's interesting to see, I mean, because you have him doing interview scenes and he makes no apologies for the kind of things he did and such, and that kind of thing, which is what's interesting, because it's almost like he doesn't care. He doesn't make out that he's a bad person, but the things he says, it's almost like he has no conscience. And that's the thing that makes it interesting. They managed to get him to interview and discuss this and say things like that. That obviously there are things that he did, not, and I don't mean like absolutely abhorrent things, but things like dealing drugs and stuff like that, which as a cop is just quite terrible. And it's an interesting documentary about this horrible thing. I mean, it's similar. It made me think about most recently with the whole thing of Black Mass, and then there's a documentary, United States versus Whitey Bulger, who that's the true story of what Black Mass is about. This is a film basically that it's interesting to see this, but I wouldn't be surprised if some point we do see, you know, the story of Michael Dowd made into a drama, because there's a lot of material here to it, and as a documentary, it's genuinely quite engrossing. I really got into it and enjoyed it, and I found myself kind of, as much as obviously you hate people for doing things like that, I found them, it's like watching a train wreck. You can't turn away because it's interesting.
Right, I've got 3 films in, and even though I've got clips of them, I think it's just for time. We'll not play the clips, to be honest, because we'll just leave this as a clip-free section of
I'm curious to see what the Transporter clip is, because the ones that I was looking at when it came out in the cinema, I was like, well, that's no good for radio. There's just oof, punch, kind of things.
Well, I'll just might as well see it now. The clip that I for Transporter is when his dad is being kidnapped for like the 50th time, and the girls explaining the plot about what they need him to do.
Okay.
That's the clip. So there you go. I spoiled the clip for you for Transporter, so spoilers there. Sinister 2, so these films are out on December the 28th, and so Sinister 2, directed by Kieran Foy, it's the sequel to Sinister, but pretty much throws all the brilliance that Sinister created out of the window, and just what Foy has decided to do is just done his own take on it. And the proof is the fact that there is alarm bells ringing about the quality of this movie from the main character, who's played by James Ranson, and he's only known as Deputy So-and-so. He doesn't have a real name in the film apart from Deputy So-and-so. And it's just about, he discovers what happened in the first Sinister, and he realises a woman has moved into the house where the incident happened, played by Shannon Sossaman in this count. She's got a child. The child is going to be a victim of Bagul, who's the evil spirit that is in these films, in this camera, which is getting the kids to kill their family. And so this deputy so-and-so needs to try and stop Bagul and help out Courtney Collins, who, like I said, is played by Shannon Sossaman, and her son, try to save him from Bagul. Gives me a chance to constantly do that, which is enjoyable.
You can do it like Babadook is like Bagul. No?
No, because it didn't work like that. He's just Bagul. It's got to be very like vampire-esque kind of thing, because he's more like akin to like the if you've seen one of the early Hammer films called The Creeping Flesh, or if you've seen films like that, the way Max von Schlecht moved in Nosferatu, where you've got that iconic scene where you saw his silhouette just move up the stairway. That's very much what Bagul is sort of like. Sorry, Bagul is sort of like imitated on. And the thing with the original Sinister is it only used him in small little bits, just to sort of like emphasize the terror that he's going to bring. Whereas in Sinister 2, what it's done is just go. It's very much like when you played Mortal Kombat and you managed to do an uppercut and you get the guy popping up from the bottom of the screen going, "Toasty." That's what Bagul is doing in this film. He just pops up, goes, "Cooey."
I think I'm gonna like start ticking this every time, like a counter every time you say
Bagul.
Yeah. There's another one.
String for a person out there, and yep. Probably he's now sloshed. But yeah, it's just you just see him pop up every now and again, going hello, and that's pretty much it. That's his scariness. There's a perfect scene which emphasizes how bad these kind of movies are, which you don't like it when horror movies rely heavily on sound to give you the jump scare.
Yeah, and I hate that.
The deputy so-and-so is in an abandoned building. He's in a hallway. It's a dark hallway, so you probably is going to guess what's going to happen. And he's got the torch and he shines it down the hallway and nothing's there, and he comes back. And he shines it down again and nothing's there, and he comes back. And then he shines it down, and Bagul is right in front of his face, and you go, I got scared. That's really scary, that is.
Well, I probably would.
No, honestly, you won't, because it's sort of like, you know, when you've got those Jack in the Box things and it's din 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 din.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. You can guess when he's going to pop out of the box.
Okay.
So Bagul, you're terrible. You're just really bad. It's a bad film. Ricky and the Flash, directed by Jonathan Demme, centers around the character played by Meryl Streep, who plays Ricky. She's sort of like washed up now. She was part of a group called The Flash, which she still plays with alongside her new boyfriend, played by Rick Springfield in the film. And she's broken up from her husband, played by Kevin Kline, and her children, who she's not seen for quite a while. Her sister is dumped by a new husband, and so she decides to go and visit her to try and help her sister out. While there, she starts learning some lessons. Ricky starts to learn some lessons about family life and about what it's like to actually stay with her family, and also try to reconnect with her children, but also try to keep this relationship that she's got along with Greg, who plays in the band The Flash with her, ongoing, and play music as well. Now, with a character played by Meryl Streep, you expect some brilliance, when in fact you've got a very mundane, boring film, because very little happens in the film. And now that's not a terrible thing in a film that has interesting characters, whereas this one, you just don't care with the fact that Ricky's sister tried to commit suicide. You just don't care about that, and that sounds like a horrible thing, but because the fact that it only ever glosses over it and never explains why she's decided to do that fully, we know it's down to her the relationship ending. But the relationship was only like a quick marriage anyway, and so you think to yourself, you're really trying to commit suicide just because the marriage ends from a quick relationship? it makes you question that, and so the depth of the characters are not there. So therefore, when the movie itself has no musical elements in it, which the Flash part of it is the musical band when they're playing the more up-to-date versions of like a Lady Gaga song, then that's when it's okay. It's just the rest of it is very mundane and it plods, and you can see why this bombed at the US box office. It absolutely bombed, and a lot of people were annoyed, actually sent death threats to Jonathan Demme because of how badly they treat the character, because Ricky and the Flash, if I remember correctly, is based on a television program from the 70s in the US. And so a lot of fans of it were expecting something better from it, and they hated the film, so they sent death threats to Jonathan Demme, and those are the idiots. It's stupid people who do that. But the film itself is not very good, so that's why we've got a direct-to-DVD over here.
I haven't seen it, and I probably won't.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because normally Meryl Streep brings an A game, and no matter what she attempts on, no matter what she does in this movie, she can't save it. And nothing can save Transporter Refuelled, directed by Camille Delamere. And with the name Camille Delamere, you're expected to be a woman when he's in fact a bloke, which got me. So I had to check, see what kind of films he's done in the past, and I was expecting to see a picture of a woman, and Camille is not a man's name. Might as well have just called him Sarah. But yeah.
Okay, about the film though.
Ed Scarron takes over the lead role, Frank Martin. You've got his father in the film, played by Ray Stevenson. And it's just set in the south of France. He's sort of like a person who is sort of like a getaway driver in a way, and he's supposedly hired by these mysterious women, and supposedly kidnapped in a way, and his father is kidnapped about 50 times in the film, and they need his help to try and stop these bad guys and rob banks and get money and all that kind of stuff. It's awful. It's just, they've got every other actor in the film, apart from Ed Scarron and Ray Stevens, are either French or in that kind of ilk, and they speak in really badly broken English, where you need subtitles on the screen to understand a single word they say, and not once do you get subtitles on the screen to actually just you cringe and think, what did you say that you mentioned a cat? There's a cat involved in it, and you're eating a sandwich? Really? And it just shows you the caliber of how bad this film is. Ray Stevens is awful in the film, and so is Ed Scarron. He's just really, really bad. The clip that we were going to play, it mentions the Three Musketeers and Alexandre Dumas, and I'm reading a quote from the Three Musketeers, and it's just the way that dialogue is actually said. It's so hammy that they could have might as well just dressed up as pieces of gammon, because they would have been much more interesting to watch. It's absolutely atrocious, and if I watched this film before we got our top 10 worst in films list locked in, then it probably would have been in the top 10 worst films of the year. It's really that bad.
Okay, so that's it for this week's and indeed next week's releases in cinema and home releases. So if you haven't got your Christmas presents sorted out for the home releases ones, obviously next week's aren't, but you can maybe get one of the ones for this week's if you're still looking to get presents. We'll get on to the best of those, which we obviously will choose our favourites. I think we're going to know what they are for the cinema in a moment. Before that though, we'll do some shout outs as we did with Mark on the show earlier, following the nerd.com, which is a great website to go and see all the latest news and things up to dates with anything to do nerd related, as the title would suggest. There's also From Page to Screen network, which is from page 2 screen.com, which has, I don't know if Stuart's doing any, I haven't actually been in touch with him recently, but is he doing any specials, do you know, or anything over Christmas?
I did one yesterday with him, the horror end of the year show. He's already done another one as well, and I think he's got one more planned around about Boxing Day time.
Yeah, so I mean he's got several shows that he's going on, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's got quite a few on there and some bits and pieces coming up there. As always, you can find us on Twitter at Monday Movie Show. Stuart's on there at Cryptic Tadpole. I'm on there at HDVD. You can find us on Facebook.com/Monday Movie Show, and you can also find us on our website mondaymovieshow.co.uk. So, before we give our movies of the week and we end the show as we do with a clip, we're going to go through some of the movies upcoming over the Christmas period on TV.
Well, you've got an encyclopedia list of...
I have. I made a point of getting a list of them, because obviously over the Christmas period you get a lot of films. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark was on TV today. I was surprised at that being shown sort of as early as it was.
Flight
but
of the Navigator was on yesterday.
Yeah, and Home Alone was on over the weekend as well. Because the second one is on as well. I'll get to that in a moment. But leading up to sort of the whole thing, you've got Christmas Eve has got a massive selection of films. I know one especially that I think you'll be liking and maybe want to see. Sister Act 2 is on. I know, but you go on about how much you love it. It's on Christmas. It's on Christmas Eve on BBC 2 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Finding Nemo is on Christmas Eve on BBC 1 at 3:50 in the afternoon.
I recommend that more so over Sister Act then.
Well, that'll be after it's finished, so you can watch both. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is on at the same time, 3:50 on ITV. So, I mean, that or Finding Nemo, or record one.
Split screen.
Kung Fu Panda 2 is on Christmas Eve at 8:40 on BBC 3. Surprisingly, I don't have any on Film 4. You have The Nightmare Before Christmas is on ITV2 at 7:45 p.m. You have...
That's an interesting time, that, isn't it?
Yeah. It is quite a dark film, though.
I know an animated film that the ITV is actually given a prime time slot to.
Yeah, ITV2 though, not ITV1.
Still, though, that's still an interesting time.
Well, they have on Christmas Eve. They have a trilogy basically of films, because they have The Nightmare Before Christmas is 7:45. Then after that, on the same channel, ITV2, 9 o'clock is Casino Royale, and then 11:05 after that is The Bourne Identity, because they are actually doing the Bond and Bourne films on ITV2 over each day. So you have Christmas Day, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York on Channel 4 at 5:45. How to Train Your Dragon is on BBC 3 at 8:45. Quantum of Solace is on ITV2 at 8:45, obviously carrying on from Casino Royale. And The Bourne Supremacy is on after that at 10:55. Boxing Day, Fantastic Mr. Fox is on Channel 4 at 11:25 a.m. You have Puss in Boots on BBC 1 at 3:25. And then after that, The Croods on BBC 1 at 4:25. And then ITV2 rounding out their Bond and Bourne trilogy with Skyfall at 8:30 and The Bourne Ultimatum at 11:20. They aren't showing the last Bourne film, Legacy. And a couple others to mention. Sunday the 27th on Channel 4 at 3:35 p.m. is Hugo, which is a great Martin Scorsese film. Yep. Behind the Candelabra is getting its premiere on BBC 2 on Monday the 28th of December at 9 o'clock, although it is varying depending on where you are. And the last couple I've got is The Shawshank Redemption, which is being shown Tuesday the 29th of December at 9 o'clock on ITV2. I mean, that is a classic, great film. And as I mentioned earlier on in the show, Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World is on Tuesday 29th on Film 4, so I have got one from Film 4 at 6:10 p.m.
Yeah, and I've got two to throw in the hat there. Beyond the Candelabra was one of the ones that I was looking at. Rare Exports is on Film 4 on Wednesday the 23rd / Thursday the 24th at 2:20 a.m. So it's very early on in the morning. It's a very brilliantly dark anti-Christmas movie.
And it's one I actually have on Blu Ray, but I've still not got around to watching it.
Yeah, all I'll just say is if you're scared of old men naked, then yeah, you'll not enjoy this film at all.
Okay, scratch that from the Christmas list then.
It features a deluge of old men who are elves in this film, who are completely stalkers. So there are lots of jingle bells. Yeah, and the final film that I've chosen is on Channel 4 on Wednesday the 30th at 4:35 p.m. and it's Sunshine on Leith. It's a fantastic film that using the Proclaimers music. It has one of the best versions of 500 Miles I've ever heard, actually. One of the best renditions of it. It is a musical, but it's a brilliant musical. So that one's on 4:35 on Channel 4 on Wednesday the 30th. So we've just given you a huge, massive list of films that are free to air as well.
Yeah.
So you don't need... You've got Brave as well, which gets its premiere on Christmas Day on BBC 1. But you don't need Sky Movies to enjoy a load of films, even though they've got things like Kingsman, which premieres on New Year's Day as one of their big New Year films. There's still a lot to watch over the channels over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So any of those in particular you want to pick out as being the one to really watch for?
Well, I think the one that I would pick out as being the one to really watch for would be Christmas Eve. Because Christmas Eve is a Rare Exports is a good anti-Christmas film. Well, I love Sunshine on Leith. If I had to choose out the two that I've chose there, I would choose Sunshine on Leith. But Rare Exports, if you want a good anti-Christmas movie, then watch that one.
I'm going to go for my oldie favourite of the whole thing of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, because I watch it every Christmas. I think it's brilliant and I love it, and it's not even kind of dated as much as you think it would be. But that's on ITV 3:50 PM on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
So that's it for this week, and may I say it, this year, apart from our special show, which will be going out in the next week. We have to confirm, next 2 days sometime. We'll go through our list of our favourite films of the year, which ones were the greats, which ones were the worsts, the bads. And then there's upcoming next year, which we have a clip for. We're going to play Creed, a clip from the movie by Ryan Coogler with Michael B. Jordan taking over the character's name of Creed, the son of a wrestler who fought, of course, Rocky Balboa, who he turns to for training. So we'll leave you with a clip for that. Until next time, bye bye.
January the 4th roundabout is when we're due back on for a normal show.
Yeah, which I think we'll be covering it that week, maybe.
No, it's the week after. That week after, yeah. The Danish girl.
Yeah. But until then...
She's not very happy about that, is she?
Bye-bye.
Bye.
No, I don't really know what I'm doing here, because I got other plans in my life, and this wasn't part of it. Your father was special. I'll tell you the truth, I don't know if he's special. Only you're going to know that when the time is right. And it ain't going to come overnight. You're going to take a beat, you're going to take this, you're going to get knocked down, you're going to get up, and you're going to see if you got the right thing. But you got to work hard. I swear to God, if you're not going to do it, I'm out.
Like every punch I ever thrown has been on my own. Nobody showed me how to do this. I'm ready.